Cool. All right. So we should have in our last video gotten our Flask instance running. We're going to leave that be for now. We're going to end up running it an awful lot of times. So if you felt like you needed more practice with running the application, we'll do that a bunch. But that'll be all right for that. We've got our database ready to go, right? So like we've got our tables now, and that'll all be golden. So now we actually need to write some routes for actually putting information into that database, which is going to be great. So we've got some API routes that we're going to start working on. Let's look at not any of those. Not any of those. Where are we going? Whatever. I don't need any of that stuff. All right. I have like the handwritten tutorial that I wrote out that I was working alongside of, but I don't need that anymore. We'll be fine. So our first route we're going to write here is going to be, we're going to do @API. We're going to do that decorator. We'll go to route, and we'll do /getData. Okay, this would be pretty straightforward, just a simple little thing. We'll have define getData. Won't take anything, and all it's going to do is it's going to return what looks like a dictionary, but we didn't call it a dictionary, right? So we'll have it return yeehaw, right? We've just got this little thing here. All it does is that when we go to this link, it will spit out yeehaw. And so if I were to Flask run, I actually don't know if this will work. We'll find out in a moment. Let's pop this open. Okay. I'm going to actually put get data here. And it's mad. It's mad. Because, I did not put the API part there. We have that prefix. I did not press enter yet. But you'll see here that it's a URL prefix. It requires that /API. So I have to put that in up there. And now if I do this, look at that. It returns some JSON. It just returned this tiny little bit. Ye and ha. Okay, beautiful. Yours might look a little bit different. I actually have installed on here. It's called JSON view. And so that's part of why mine looks a little bit different. I can copy the path or value here for navigating to it within JSON. We'll get to that when we get to JavaScript. Don't worry about any of that stuff just yet. We will actually, I'll have you guys install that into your Chrome browsers in the not too distant future. But that's what our web page is actually returning. It's just this little package of data right there, okay? Which is fine, but we don't want to look at it in our browser. We want to be able to use it, okay? And so what we're going to be doing instead is we're actually going to be, let's see. Yeah, that'll be fine. We're actually going to be working on Insomnia here. Let me pause. My thing's being weird. All right, there we go. Cool. We're good to go. We wrote our first little route there, the little yeehaw thing. And we're going to open up an application that's actually called Insomnia, which I've probably mentioned a couple times now. A little disjointed today, that's all right. Insomnia API, right? So we're going to go here, insomnia.rest. Really useful project here. What Insomnia does is it allows us to make and take API calls with a whole lot of different little data pieces that go with it. And essentially we're going to use it to test our routes, okay? To make sure that the data that we want to come through is coming through, that the whole process will work correctly. It will throw us nice little errors, and but this way we don't have to design an entire website on the front end to practice taking these API calls. We can actually just use Insomnia to do it, which makes way easier to practice this stuff, right? You can see that other companies use it quite a bit. And so we can write JSON. We'll talk about what that is in just a minute. We can write JSON. We can design APIs. When we can test stuff. Really useful. We're going to use just a couple little tiny features on this one, but we do need to actually pick it up. So we're going to go to Insomnia here. Okay. We're just going to go to build better APIs things here. You'll find pricing, and you're going to download the app. Mine's already installed, but You might have to do a couple other steps, but essentially what you want to do is get to a point where we are going to be able to open up Insomnia. And I actually already have mine open, so I'll pull that over in a second. Alrighty, so here's my Insomnia. Yours should look about like this. Yours obviously won't have any collections because you haven't made any yet. But we're going to go ahead and do that. So that'll all be just fine. We're going to click this purple button here. We're going to create a request collection. All right, so we do that. We're going to call it Flask Phonebook. You can just call it that. I'm going to do code along because I already have a Flask Phonebook version. Okay, and we have absolutely no requests. We have nothing happening here. Nothing's going on. That is just fine. We're going to create, there's really not a whole lot of options on this page. So we're going to go ahead and press this button here, new request. We're going to call it get data, and it's going to be a get. Make sure that it is that one. We've got a couple different options. We're mostly going to play with get, post, put, and delete, but that's okay. Right now we're just working on get. We'll talk about those other ones in a bit. So get data, it's a get request, and what we're going to do is we're going to put in it our URL. So right now we've got, this is our domain, this is where we're located, and we don't need that anymore. We're going to actually put this in here. Okay, we don't need any headers, we don't need anything else. We just need to have this. When we press send, it brings us back our data, and that proves that the data that we meant to retrieve is actually coming back correctly. The beauty of this that we don't get with a browser is we can see all of this stuff, right? There's other headers in there. We can see all the data that comes and goes, what it's called. It's very detailed, very useful for what we're trying to do. We got a 200, which just means that our request succeeded, and it talks us about how long it went and when the last time we actually called that, right? You've got a couple other options, right? So this is the actual thing that came for raw code, and then obviously this is the preview. This is what it would look like if we were to utilize that. All good, all lovely. Okay, so that's our first route, and everything's happy. So that makes me happy. I hope you guys are happy. You are moving actual data. How cool is that, right? We're going to head now back to our code, and we're going to write some more API routes, right? So we got pretty much everything ready to go, but we got to get our API routes written out. We got a couple more of them. So we're going to write one, and that was just a little test, just for funsies. The other ones of these are going to be more relevant to our contacts data. So our first one we're going to have at api.route. We'll have \contacts. We're going to write this methods thing here, and we're going to have that equal to post. All right. We're going to have at token required, right? And that will actually pull from our helpers. It will actually take this function that we wrote in helpers up here, this whole thing, okay, to make sure that none of our function here will happen until we have our token, and that ends up working because it's going to keep looping it over and over and over and over again. That decorated thing is going to keep happening until it gets what it wants, which will either throw an error or it will go through and we can actually use the data and access the rest of this function. Delightful. So we're going to create contact, and this post thing here, you'll see comes back in Insomnia because we'll make another one where instead of a get, we'll put a post here, and that means we're actually allowed to send data to the API, which is delightful. It actually sends to the database is really more accurately what's going on here. Create contact is going to take current user token, which again gets created when we do the token required function. Current user token. Name is going to equal request.json name. Now somebody tell me right now, just this piece of code by itself, right? If I put this right here, okay, and obviously it's mad, but what does this kind of remind us of, right? What kind of Python data type? We've worked with it before. It looks like a dictionary, which is fascinating because guess what else looks like a dictionary? Dun, 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 right? So we've got yeehaw here, which is exactly what we're looking for. Brandon, you're too dramatic. That's okay. I keep things interesting, I hope. So it's actually going to be looking at our JSON, and it's going to end up bringing back the name. But it's going to be the key of that name. So we'll have a name on the one side, and then the value will be the other side. So it's key value pairs, name is the key, and we're going to set whatever the value ends up being from our JSON that we're going to write. You'll see where we put this stuff in a moment. Okay, from our JSON where we write this stuff, it's going to end up taking the value of that and assigning it to the variable name, and then we're going to put it someplace in just a moment. Email is going to be the same way. Request.json, email, nice. We'll do this with phone number. I have to type that one out. It's very slow. Address equals request. You'll see a trend here. And then we'll have user token where we break the trend because we're cool. Current user token dot token. Excellent. Right? And then we're going to print this off. We're going to have an F string. Sorry, I have a thing that automatically runs Python files. It basically does this button when I type shift space, which was very useful when I was just working with little Python things, and now is a setting that I should probably just get rid of. Current user token dot token. All right, so what happened here? Well, current user token, right? That came from token required. Okay, that was something we put in here, and then we're going to find the token aspect of that, and this is literally just the actual token number. And so right now we're printing the actual token number out here. We've saved it to user token as well. So theoretically we could just put user token here, but we didn't, and that's okay. It probably has to do with encryption stuff, and I definitely need to finish that. Thank you. Okay, so that'll do that. They'll just spit it out, say, hey, this is what it is. We're going to save a whole bunch of stuff to this contact variable, and actually we're going to take the contact class that we made in our models.py, right? So again, this is the entire contact class. This is all this stuff, right? You'll notice that these names all line up. Okay, the user token, not exactly, and the ID is not something that we're going to end up actually writing. The code will do that for us. But we're going to use the contact class. We'll have name, email, phone number. We'll have address. We'll have user token, and we're going to set that equal to user token, right? Which pulls from here. Okay, so it saves it there, and then it's going to end up overwriting whatever user token default the contact class had, and saving all that to its variable contact. So now we have all that data organized, ready to go, saved to our variables. Now we have to actually add it to our database. Okay, so we're going to have db.session.add, and we're going to add contact. Great. Is that it? No, we still have to commit it. Okay, because usually with coding, there's a series of steps required, just like uploading to GitHub, just like making our database. We got a couple different steps where we have to stage it, get it ready to go, and then send it all as a package all at once. So this is what we'll do then. We'll do session.commit, and off it will go. Woohoo! Bye! See ya! Response will equal contact schema.dump, and we'll have contact in there. And again, this will be tied to, this is from our models.py as well, I believe, our contact schema. It will end up instantiating a class, and it will pull whatever dump is from this. I don't know exactly. It just says it's a class. We did not write that. We used it from someplace else, from Marshmallow. But what that will end up doing is we're going to return response in a JSONified version. And that means that when we run this function, whatever we end up sending to it, it will actually show us on our API. So in Insomnia, when we populate our data here in Insomnia, we are going to end up returning the values that we spit out and put into the database. It's going to say, hey, this is the stuff you actually put in there. We'll get a confirmation, which will be delightful. And keep in mind also that this token required handles any errors with this. So if we don't give it good data, it will say, hey, I'm grouchy. And that will show up in Insomnia. Cool. Now, before we test this, I want to write one other function so that we can have a look at our all the things that we do end up actually putting in there. And this one's much shorter, very quick and easy. How lovely is that? So let's go ahead and we're going to do at api.route, and we're going to do at /contacts, right? Now you say, Brandon, that's the exact same location. What on earth is going on here? Here's the deal. And again, this is one of the beauties of using Insomnia. This time the method is post, but this time we're going to use the method get. Methods equals get. There we go. Okay. We still need a token required. That'll be fine. And we're going to do def get contact this time. We could name it whatever we want to, but it's just clearer to call it get contact and create contact. So we'll have a user equals current user token, and our dot token. We need the dot token there. Neato. All right, and then we're gonna have contacts equals contact dot query. That's new. Dot filter by. That's newer. User token equals a user. Keep in mind what a user equals, right? So that's the actual token number that we've taken and made it usable. And we have to save it to a user right there. And then we're going to bring back all. Wow! All, that sounds like a lot of stuff. It is. What this function is doing is it's bringing back all of the users, or all the contacts, I'm sorry, that are inside our database right now, right? So right now there's 0 because we haven't actually put anything in there. But if we put 4 or 5 people in there, we'd end up with this API route that brings back all, right? And will tell us all the things that are valid tokens and valid contacts. So it checks to make sure that your token's good, and we do need to have that token sent in with it as part of the headers stuff. We'll get to that in just a moment. I'll go back to helpers and point out how that stuff works. But we save all that to contacts. Response is going to be equal to contacts schema, and keep in mind this is the plural one. The other one we just had, I think, yeah, just a singular, because we're just going to end up adding one contact at a time. But in this case, we're going to do multiple, so have contacts schema in case we have like 5 or 6 contacts in our phone book, and we're going to dump contacts into that, right? And then we're going to return the JSONified response. Okay, so everything here is happy. This looks like a happy little function. That's all good to go. I'm going to save it. I'm going to clear whatever is going on here, and I'm going to run Flask. Make sure that you run Flask. Oh, I got to open up my venv. Activate, and then conda activate. It's good practice for you guys to watch as well. Flask run. So again, if you're getting that ZSH, oh, it's already working somewhere else, I suppose. Where is it running somewhere else? Die. Why is this already in use? I'm gonna have to. Do I have other terminals? Let me kill these. Somebody's misbehaving. Somebody's causing me problems. There it is. There it is. All right. Cool. That'll be fine now. So if you did the same thing as I did, it's because you have multiple terminals running, right? So again, if I'm over here, right, I can just say terminal, right? And then it should open a terminal, but I've got one on a different screen, I believe. Yeah. You say, oh, look, there's a terminal. Okay. There's my terminal, and then I could open another one like that, and then I could open another one, right? Our code editor here will actually take care of multiple ones for us, but they all appear over here. So you can switch back and forth, and I don't want to work with that one anymore. So now we just have this one, the ZSH, and that's fine. You can add terminals, you can name them other things, that's all fine. But what we just want is just a plain old regular terminal, or if you're using Windows, just a plain old CLI. Same rules go. Make sure you only have one going because you only have one localhost location. This is a little bit different than some other things that we end up doing. You only get that one. It won't make a new one. At least the way that we're doing it. Just fine. So now, thank you. So now it's running. I don't need to open this up. I don't need to go to the website. We have no reason to do any of that stuff yet. But we should be able to go over here and actually pause. Before we do that, we do need to actually make an account and log in. So I'm actually going to cut the video here. We've written 2 routes. We've not tested either of them yet. This will be like part 1 of our API routes. But the next video, I'm going to specifically end up logging in to our website. So I do need to actually open this. What the heck, I'll do it here. So we're going to go to our sign up page, which should load fine. Oh, that's a problem. That's new. I wonder if I didn't. Oh, I know why. I did not connect my CSS. So that's where we're going to go next, actually. So we've got main.css, and what we need to do is we need to head to base.html, and we need a link, and we're going to do back up to static CSS and main.css. I need to kill my Flask app and then run it again to refresh. I should be able to just refresh this page, and it should. There it is. Yay! Cool. So now you know too. Actually, I'm going to write that down real quick so that I have that on the written down. There we go. And that'll be written down on the document too if you need to move a little bit more slowly. Look at that, whatever. Okay, you're going to put your email and password in here. I'm going to pause and do that so you can't read mine. Great. Yep, my fake password is not very secure. That's fine. As you can tell, I used lacroix@can.com. I did not use my personal email. Do not save that nonsense. But now if we go back here, I should be able to go to user and execute that, and I should have, there it is. There's my email, lacroix@can.com. So if you go back to your Elephant SQL login and you pull open your user class, that should pull up. You'll notice that we have a token here. That's delightful. That is exactly what we wanted. We've got a password, but that's not my password. My password, here's a big secret. It was just LaCroix. When I don't use that for other things. So you can feel free to try that for other things, but I literally only use that for silly tests. We've got an ID here, which will be useful later. We did not give it a first name or last name, so those both defaulted to blank, which is fine. Geauth verify defaulted to false, which is also something that we put into our code. All of this is groovy. This is just okay. But what we really want is we want access to our token and proof that our password is now encrypted. Very nice. So we're going to go to, it does not currently sign us in automatically, which is okay. We're going to go ahead and do that next. So I'll head over here. I'm going to pause and do that. Cool. And then you can submit it. Mostly I just have some autofill nonsense, and I don't feel like you guys seeing all my personal emails. So we have our email. This is our profile page now. LaCroix@cans.com user profile. There's our email, and here is our token, which we will need, because you remember we set it up that if users don't have a valid token, if they don't have the right to access our data, then they're not allowed to, right? And so you need to have a good token coming with your data to say, hey, the person requesting this data has proper access to what's going on here. All right, so that is where we are going to pause it. You also notice that we've got a whole bunch of post and get methods in here, whether that's sending information, and that comes from back on our routes.py. You remember we've got get and post stuff for our sign in and sign up, and that is actually what's coming here. And actually, in this case, I've written this because I literally printed out the email and password. It actually does spit out my password right there. This is not common practice, but for our Flask app purposes, printing that out there is something that we are doing so that we can see that the actual information got sent in. We want visual confirmation for us as we're developing. In real life, that's not a normal thing to do at all, or a good practice. But for what we're doing right now, that's something we're doing. But it's about 25 minutes into this video. We have gotten our tokens now. We've got our Elephant SQL database running and populated. Right now, our contact database does not have anything. Okay, so no rows returned. There's nothing in there because we haven't written any yet. In the next video, we are going to take our token and we are going to head to Insomnia and actually use the routes that we've written for our API routes, using these two to start creating and viewing contacts in our phone book. Super cool. I'll see you all in the next one. LaCroix out.